Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Undisputed Heavyweight Champion of the World show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann, and this is Football and Nonsense. I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance right now. 2 hours before the show started, and granted, these Tuesday shows, there's so much that happened over the weekend. Obviously, football alone, I wanted to start covering hockey, and then all the political BS that's been happening with forcing its way into the world of sports. That Tuesday comes along, and there's just so much to talk about because I don't do a Monday one because I don't want to have to compete with Monday Night Football. But excuse me. But Tuesday comes around, and now the week is officially in the books. I'm looking through headlines, stuff I wanted to talk about, stuff that I could care less, that I couldn't care less if I talked about or not on the show, and then anything that might pique my interest. And I get my thoughts together. You guys know I don't like scripts, and I sometimes will write down key points in case there's a lot of them, just to make sure that I don't forget anything. And I get ready, and I have a bite to eat, and I make sure everything's ready to go. But just about 2 hours ago, the news broke, and a lot of you won't, it's not going to hit you like me, but in the offseason, in the NFL offseason, that's really my season, because that's when the Indoor Football League starts up, or the indoor leagues start up, CIF, NAL, IFL, and the AFL. And that's how I choose to spend my spring and summer is covering football, without having to worry about what's going on with the NFL offseason. And I did the tour. Of course, a lot of you guys saw, you followed along, went to the different cities, visited the different teams in the IFL, had a great time. Last year, though, the season before that, I had the pleasure of following one team, the Spokane Empire, Spokane's rebranded football team that has since closed up shop. And I got to know these players so well. As a guy whose only sibling is a sister 9 years older than him, and who grew up out in the sticks instead of, suburbia and a street filled with a whole bunch of neighbor kids my age. Anytime that I get a chance to meet a guy or a group of guys that share similar interests, it's like having a brother that I didn't, And with the Empire, that was them. And since then, I've gotten to know so many fantastic people in the league, fans, friends, and I mean, they're all my friends now, but players, all of them alike. And it's been such a blessing. But the guys on the Empire that first year that I covered the league, the sport really at all, it was great. And there were some people that I met that really stood out. I have since kept in contact with them, and we'll shoot the shit every now and then and, catch up. But about 2 hours ago, news broke that Carl Sims, who was a wide receiver for the Spokane Empire that year, and then got sent to the Nebraska Danger early into last season, was tragically shot and killed. And you meet so many of these people, and you meet so many players, you have conversations with them, you get post-game comments from them, you invite them to be on your show, they come on, they do a segment with you, but there's a bond there. And he's someone who has been on the show, who we had a connection, a banter, and it was so much fun to get to see him play that when I heard the news, first I didn't believe it, whether I didn't want to or it just seemed too unreal to be true. And so I just shook it off. I said, I don't know what they're talking about, but obviously there's some joke that I'm not in on. And then I started to see more and more, and I started to reach out to people, and one by one they all told me the same thing, that Carl Sims, Indoor Football League veteran, was tragically shot and killed. And you don't really know how something is going to hit you until it does. And the fact that I had a conversation with this guy on the show just a few months ago, and that I watched him for a whole season in Spokane, front and center, right down on field level, and he had these amazing catches, and he was so much fun to watch play, and he had his own signature end zone dance, the Sim Shuffle. He's gone now. And that is probably one of the hardest things to grasp. So when I was preparing for the show, I had this whole rant about Jameel Hill and people that are standing with her and whatever is going on in the NFL, the vice president at the Colts game. And this is just a reminder that there's so much more to life than the bullshit that's going on right now that people are making way bigger deals of. You really don't know when, what day is going to be your last. And for people to be so petty about things and to distract from the bigger picture, that we're all here for how long we don't know, that it has to take someone's unexpected passing in a horrific way to remind you that all the rest is just BS. It really is. And that there's so much good out there. There's so much to be cherished that we really need to focus on that more. So for the past hour, I found myself in tears, and I didn't know if they were justified or not, but it's the shock of someone gone way too soon, and a person that I've had the pleasure of speaking with on the show, after games, watching them play, and developing a friendship with this individual, Carl Sims. You will be missed. And at the end of the show, I will play the clip from the last time that he was on the show, and the last words that he actually that he spoke to me when he was on the show. Sorry. So I will do that at the end of the show, but he was such a competitor that I didn't want to call off the show because of the emotion I felt and the mood that I was in when it came time to hit, go live. Because when he broke his wrist late in that first season, he told me several times, if they'd let me play with a broken wrist, I'd play with a broken wrist. I can run just fine, and I only need one hand to catch. He was that kind of competitor. So who am I to not do the show because I feel saddened by his passing, when, he would probably be the kind of guy to tell me that, hey, man, do your thing. So to Carl Sims, to the rest of the Indoor Football League family, I'm right there with you. I love you guys to death. I really do. And it's just so heartbreaking to hear the news today. And I don't think it's still quite acknowledged itself as real to me. I kind of think that once the show is over, it's going to be, just kidding, didn't mean for it to come to that. So regardless of who you stand with or whatever bullshit you're boycotting this week, get over it. Move on, because there's so much more to life than what you agree or disagree with. And today is a prime example of that. I do have my buddy Rob coming on in a little bit here, probably about the next 5 minutes. The plan for today, of course, football and nonsense. We wanted to have some fun. We were going to recap the week that was. Week 5, I was going to give my little spiel about Jameel Hill and the people using the I Stand With Her hashtag, and how I feel it's, quite honestly, a waste of breath. People pulling the race card and making it a thing about race, I feel like that's incredibly stupid and just so beyond the point, it's ridiculous. And then him and I were going to talk about his Browns and my 49ers and joke about who we think is going to get the win first. So I apologize to Rob. I sent him a message on Twitter apologizing. I said, I just heard about this, and I'm sorry, but the show is going to happen. I still want you on because at the end of all, I still want to laugh. I still want to smile, but it's still just a terrible thing to happen. So I know I have a lot of listeners that know the indoor game, that love the indoor game, and you guys are just as heartbroken as I am. So from the Fan Show, from me, Richard, right here, from the bottom of my heart, thoughts and prayers are to all of you, fans and friends alike, players, coaches, and staff, and of course, the family of Carl Sims. We'll get through this. You guys, let me know if you need anything. And of course, I've invited people that if they want to share a memory of Carl Sims, they're welcome to call and leave me a voicemail, and I'll play those throughout the week. I don't know if anyone will take me up on it. I don't. I also don't want people to get the wrong idea that it's some sort of way to get people to listen to my show. It's that this is what I do. And Carl knew that. And the best way that I can honor him, is to do something for him on here. So I invited people to call and leave messages sharing memories about Carl Sims, and we'll see if, how many we get between now and the end of Thursday's episode. But his last interview on the Fan Show coming up, last part of the show after Rob and I get done talking. But I do want to thank you all for tuning in. I'm sorry that it's not under better circumstances, but these things happen. It's crazy, too, to think, real quick before I wrap whatever this is up, that I was thinking about all the great, television and radio hosts, and if they've ever had, like, real moments, moments that just, they hit you. I listened to Dan Patrick's show a lot, and of course when the Vegas shooting happened, you could hear in his voice that it was hard for him to be Dan Patrick that day, just because, these shows like mine are supposed to be an escape from the harsh reality that is the real world and the tragic things that happen in it, but sometimes you just can't be oblivious to it anymore, no matter how hard you try. And I remember a time that Ellen DeGeneres on her show had a breakdown in front of her audience. I know that it's happened to numerous others. Jimmy Kimmel has had several breakdowns recently due to recent events, Jimmy Fallon. And so I'm not ashamed if I get emotional on the show. I already kind of have. But we're real people here. The voice that comes through your phone, your speaker, whatever. And we feel too when stuff happens. We do. So with that, then I'm going to go ahead and go to a commercial break, take a few deep breaths. I'm going to bring Rob on. We're going to go over everything that's going on in the NFL and see if we can salvage this Tuesday episode. So again, my apologies in advance, folks, but the best way I can honor Carl is by doing the show, because if he could play, he would have. Broken wrist and all. So we'll be back with more of the Fan Show after this.
This is The Sheet.
Gets me all revved up. My face is now red. My ears are just freaking boiling.
He's so raw that Sky hates him.
Yeah, he had 51 touchdowns, 4,900 total yards.
I know y'all like that, but I got to run. And only in Alabama that could happen, I have to say.
They're so good, man. They would win the Big Ten if they were in the Big Ten. You could be doing something vision-based in front of you and reach down and grab a handful of insane goodness.
Give it to him. Kudos. I'm clapping like a golfer. Very good, Johnny. I'm proud of you.
Wow. You guys agree on something again? I'm very impressed. Have you ever had a bad week? Just you walk outside, step in a puddle, like right when you walk outside. I mean, how's there a puddle right outside the house? Or you stand on the curb and somebody drives by and splashes water up on you? Or it's just raining on you, not anyone else?
I will tell you, before you go any further, I cannot hear Chad when he speaks.
Good. You're listening to The Sheet, man. I don't really know what we're doing.
Every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. right here on WBLZ Sports.
Whether it be your industrial, commercial, or residential needs, Gen Service is the electrical contractor for you. The Gen Service team has the expertise, commitment, and educational years to help you solve all your electrical concerns. They have you in their best interest with helpful suggestions to accommodate your every want. Give them a call, no matter the size of the job, at 740-438-7173. Mention WBLZ Sports, and you'll get a discount. That's Gen Service, 740-438-7173.
This is Nick Ficarelli, the mad scientist of sports. Join me and Dr. D, Derek Jones, live every Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Mad Scientist Sports Lab. The big intellects, the experiments on the chalkboard, and the guest subjects will be rolling in. Mad Scientist Sports Lab, only on WBLZ Sports, where we got balls.
Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. He has over 30 years of painting experience. He's interior, exterior, commercial, or residential. Doug Peffer covers it all. Is your house looking ugh? We'll call on Doug. Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361. Mention WBLZ Sports and get a special We've Got Balls discount. That's Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361.
Check out Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL legends live on. We bring you 5 NFL legends every week, sharing their stories and insights, plus our spotlight on the positive. Hear which players are doing great things in their communities. Now on WBLZ Sports Talk Radio and WBLZSports.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and with me is one of my favorites, and I think at this point probably the only Browns fan that I know, that has since gone and hidden after things did not go their way to start the first 5 weeks of the season. But hey, it's Rob, aka Leveland Rowns. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me back. And if I could just start off by saying, commend you on that very nice tribute you gave to Carl, and just send out my condolences to his family, yourself, the IFL family, and anyone who he touched along his journey on this mortal coil.
And we thank you for that. And here's a fun fact. I was checking out his Facebook to, obviously fact-checking to make sure what I was reading was correct. And one of his, you can do the 5 featured photos on there. One of them was him on the field next to Terrell Owens when he played in the indoor game. So, he had been around the league for a while, and he had some amazing moments. And yeah, he will definitely be missed. So thank you very much for that. But
absolutely,
wanted to. I had such big plans for today, so I'm trying to get my bearings right. But of course, breaking news today was Adrian Peterson, who played so long with one team, has found himself on 2 in the same season. The Cardinals, really? It seems like so many are already in that backfield. I don't know if I understand this move.
I can't say I understand it either, especially considering how un-Adrian Peterson-like he's been up to this point in the season. But, I guess when you're desperate for running back help or any skill position help, you make moves that sometimes don't make sense. Yeah, I'm sure obviously it made sense to somebody within the organization.
I feel like they should be desperate for quarterback help or secondary help, because there's so many issues with this Cardinals team, and there shouldn't be. If you look at the roster and if you negate the injuries and David Johnson, obviously, you look at this team and there's still enough playmakers on it that I guess their record is pretty fitting for the way that they've played. But the way that they've played does not reflect the talent that they have, even without David Johnson. It blows me away.
Yeah, but I think that just goes to show you that you can never really tell sometimes how the loss of a David Johnson is going to affect you. I think last year proved that he was a big portion of that offense, and even when it didn't necessarily go through him, just his success throughout the year opened up a lot of other things. And when you don't have that guy who is going to make you keep the defenses honest, let you, Lord knows I've seen this with the Browns plenty of times, where when you don't have a reliable running game, you're putting Nate in the box and you're daring your quarterback to beat you. And
Yeah, and the thing that intrigues me about Adrian Peterson is that I don't think it's too bold to say that this could be his last stop in the NFL, because his last few goes with the Vikings were not that memorable. Granted, one of them was very much all due to injury. He was sidelined for the season. But even still, they felt that he wasn't worth holding on to. He goes to the Saints, probably the worst fit for him considering what he is, which is a power runner and a playmaker on the field. And then when Dalvin Cook gets hurt, you think, oh, hey, maybe he'll go back to Minnesota and they can reconcile and he can live out his days in the purple and yellow. But no, it's Arizona, where they already had 3 other running backs, and I've been told that the problems are pretty much the offensive line. So I don't know. If he doesn't do something major with the Cardinals, I think this is his last go, at least front of the depth chart in the NFL.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree with you. I mean, I think, history has shown that, post 30 is you see a sharp decline with running backs. And I mean, I'm honestly surprised that he's been able to keep up his level of play for as long as he has. But unfortunately, no matter how good you are, in most cases, you're not gonna beat Father Time.
Yeah, no, time is undefeated in the world of sports. But Brady continues to defy time. We had our concerns, of course, that first game, and then they dropped the second game. They were 2-2, and the world was ending in New England. But, they always compare it to, well, what happened the last time that they were this? Well, they went and won the Super Bowl. There's not a whole lot of years of Patriot history within the last decade that there was a season they didn't go to or win a Super Bowl. So those comparisons, I feel, are a bit, okay, pump the brakes a bit, because they do that a lot. But their defense is obviously cause for concern. Right now, the Chiefs own the AFC, if not the entire NFL. They seem like the real deal. They've managed for 5 weeks to avoid the injury bug. At least, they had that big scare with Eric Berry, and you thought, there goes their secondary, but they're still plugging away when you see a guy like Carr go down, and then Mariota gets sidelined, Dalvin Cook out, Beckham out. It's like you're playing Russian roulette, and the further you go into that game, the more bullets you put in the gun, and somebody's going to get shot eventually. So is that a legitimate concern for a fan of any team doing well right now?
Oh, I mean, it always is. I mean, you have to be. I mean, you never know what's going to happen from one minute to next in this league. And I mean, I think the Odell Beckham injury, case in point. But now, and admittedly, I haven't had much chance to watch the Chiefs this year to check, how deep they are as a team. But right now, I mean, they're obviously clicking on all cylinders. And I'm a fan of all the old school teams in the league, so I like seeing since I don't think I'm going to be seeing my Browns do good anyway. I like seeing teams like the Chiefs, who have always have solid, loyal fan bases, do well.
Yeah, I do like seeing teams like that do very well. They definitely have the stadium for a team that's 5-0 with Arrowhead and the impact that can have on away teams. But I never thought I would utter the phrase, as big of a believer in Alex Smith as I am and have been since his days with the Niners, I never, ever in my life thought that I would utter the phrase, you're leaving Alex Smith too much time on the clock. And I have found myself uttering that phrase a few times, and it's been incredible to watch, because I guess if it takes a rookie phenom, or whatever you want to call Mahomes, to sit right behind you, and then you start playing like a child possessed, then maybe more teams should follow suit. But props to the Chiefs on 5-0. Don't know what's going on with the Patriots. I feel like I'm really not sold yet on the Carolina Panthers. They're 4-1, and I have a hard time believing that they're a 4-1 team. And I don't know what your thoughts are on the Panthers, though. I think it's because of my distaste for Cam Newton and the fact that he feels he can charm his way out of anything.
Well, he's gotten this far with that, so yeah, I know. I've never particularly been a huge Cam fan either, even though I've had him in my last, I think, 3 fantasy leagues. So I try not to let my personal opinions of players affect whether or not I draft them on my teams. But I don't know. Carolina. I mean, I used to live in Charlotte for 10 years, so I followed them for a long time, and they have always been the type of team that when you think they're going to be crappy, they surprise you and do really well. And when you think they're going to do really well, they surprise you and turn out being really crappy. So I have no idea what's going on with them. I feel like they have, if Cam's playing the way Cam is capable of playing, they can do a lot. They have a good receiving core. The backfield is still pretty solid. Their defense, I think their defense goes as far as Kuechly can take them. But I don't know. Talk to me again in early December, and then we'll see. But I don't know if they can sustain it.
Well, it's certainly become a competitive division, and I'm very happy to see that because I feel like all four teams have deserved to be, not another bye week on a schedule and not a pushover or a gimme game, and that's what we've gotten from the NFC South, which is good because it's obviously going to keep the Falcons honest, and we all thought that they probably were going to suffer a Super Bowl hangover and regress from last season, but it looks like they haven't. We'll see what happens after their bye week because now we are in bye week season. But did you ever watch, not the ESPN several docu-series, I would have said mini-series, but there was like 7 parts to it, but the FX, The People versus O.J. Simpson, did you have a chance to watch that at all?
You know what? I have it sitting on my DVR at home, and I have yet to watch an episode of it.
The reason I bring that up is because we were talking about Cam Newton, and there's a part in one of the episodes where he tells his legal team, he's like, "Put me on the stands, put me in, coach, I can do this." So they say, "Okay, well, we'll give it a practice run." And so he's in this room sitting at a table, and the lady that's interrogating him basically says, "There were several reports of domestic abuse with you and Nicole Brown. Like, how do you explain that?" And he's like, "We, tussle around and blah, blah, blah." And all the while, like, he's smiling and kind of giggling about it.
Yeah.
And she stops and she goes, "Why are you smiling right now?" And that's the thought I had in my head the whole time that Cam Newton decides to go, "Yeah, I looked into the history of the ladies and found such and I'm like, "Dude, are you for real right now? Like, this is how you bounce back from last week."
Yeah, I don't know. That was just ill-advised from the beginning. And the funny thing is that apparently the reporter, and I apologize, I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but she had said that, or she had tweeted out that she apparently spoke to him after he made those comments, and apparently he just like doubled down and made it even worse. I don't know if she ever actually let out what he said, but apparently he was certainly not immediately contrite about it. So
yeah,
my guess is
if walls could talk.
My guess is losing the Oikos sponsorship probably said, "Uh-oh."
It's just the behavior of some people. When you see a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. go down with a season-ending injury the same week that J.J. Watt, you have 2 different reactions from certain people. A lot of people are heartbroken over the fact that J.J. Watt will be sidelined for the rest of 2017 because they felt that he best embodied the city of Houston after a most tragic time in that city's history, where Odell Beckham, he's a great talent. I never wish injury on anyone, but this is a guy who gets in his own way so much, whether he's acting like a dog peeing on a fire hydrant in the end zone or flirting around with a kicking net. Like, some people are just like, they're relieved that they don't have to deal with it anymore. And it's really mind-blowing to see those polarizing reactions to the same thing in the same sport. But it proves to my point that I've said for the last few weeks, guys that are likable will last longer in this sport.
Absolutely. You never know what's going to make one person like somebody and dislike another one who are, have the same issues happen to them. And you could probably make a lot of arguments as to what and why. And that's probably not a road either one of us wants to go down right now. But yeah, I don't get it.
Well, we saw the debut of Mitchell Trubisky, and I was probably about a quarter inch away from sending a tweet that said, and I think I still remember the exact 140 characters, and that was, "To the Browns fans that argue that Wentz has better weapons on the Eagles than he would have with the Browns, I hope you're watching Mitchell Trubisky right now, because I thought for sure he was going to lead him down the field and win the game. And this would have been yet another quarterback that the Browns have passed on, not named Johnny Manziel, and unfortunately for recent history, not named Deshaun Kaiser. Jury's still out on that. But you're a Browns fan. Where do you side on the whole? What's the Browns' biggest, reason for being the Browns? Like what's their biggest flaw? Is it passing on quarterbacks and thinking that they'll get all the other components that they need? Or is it their long history with quarterbacks, and this first sign of trouble, they immediately, hit the rotation button, and now we're playing the merry-go-round game?
All of the above. Sorry, I have to move out of my room here. Honestly, if I had the answer to that question, Richard, I would be on the first plane out to the Browns headquarters in Berea and would be pounding on their gate until somebody either arrested me or let me in, because I would want to see them turn that around. I don't know. I mean, I have a really hard time with some of the thought processes. As soon as you see, Carson Wentz throw for 4 touchdowns, and the Browns made another mistake. As soon as you see Deshaun Kaiser, light it up, the Browns made another mistake. I mean, Deshaun Watson, sorry. I have a hard time believing that they would have had the same success on the Browns, especially in Deshaun Watson's case. I mean, he's got some solid receivers on that team. And our receivers is basically, 3 practice squad players and a veteran who has become Dwayne Bowe version 2.0.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to admit that I believe that Wentz obviously has some toys out there. Aguilar seems to have found his place on that offense. And then, of course, Torrey Smith, we know him, kind of a journeyman wide receiver at this point, but never one to be overlooked. And then, of course, Alshon Jeffrey, same thing. So the weapons that you have there, better than what you currently have in Cleveland, but yet they've had some big-name tight ends in the recent years, and then they had Terrell Pryor before Terrell Pryor had Kirk Cousins throwing to him. I mean, statistically, as a wide receiver Terrell Pryor, his best time was with the Browns, and yet the Browns still say, he wasn't that good or whatever the case may be. So at some point, something has to give, but when you watched Trubisky last night, did you have any regret that the Browns did not take him, considering that he had moments of promise with arguably a worse offensive roster than the Browns, and that's hard to do?
No, because I wanted Myles Garrett all along. I mean, to me, despite the 4-week layoff that he's had, I thought, and I still think that Myles Garrett was the best player in the draft. So no, I have no disappointment about them passing on Trubisky, even though Trubisky was a local kid from just outside of Cleveland. And he very well may be, turn out to be another great quarterback. But I think when you're staring at the, consensus best player in the draft, I don't care what your quarterback needs are. And this is probably why I'm not an NFL GM, but I think you got to go with the best player in the draft. And I think in this instance, that was Garrett.
And with that, I will not, bash you or shame you at all, because I do think that if you believe the guy you got was the best one, not just in that round or available at that time, but in the entire draft class, I will give you that. I think we have gotten a taste of what Myles Garrett brings to the table, and that he will be a force to be reckoned with. But at the same time, he's not your quarterback. He's probably going to end up being the J.J. Watt for the Browns, and then it's going to take you guys another 5 years to find a decent quarterback, and then finally you'll be, a playoff contender. But we'll see on that. I had a question of the day, which is brought to you by Undisputed Belts. Go and get a custom belt for your fantasy league, or order one of their pre-made ones at undisputedbelts.com today. You're not a champ unless you are undisputed. And the question of the day was, which quarterback would benefit the most from getting a second life and that's the best term I could come up with because I'm not sure there actually is an official term for it. Second life with another team options are Eli, Bortles, Tannehill, and Luck, and those are the 4 quarterbacks that, active or not, they have been with their team, and there's a lot of rumblings that fan bases, players, front office are ready to move on from them, or the players themselves are ready to move on to something at least different. Guess at which one is leading the pack currently?
I'm going to go with Eli.
Eli is in second place, and that's at 23% of the vote. First place with 57% is Andrew Luck, which I find interesting because there's no guarantee that where he's going to go is going to be a better situation than the Colts. Now, he's had some tough goings in Indy, but I do have to ask the people that are voting Andrew Luck, and I'll ask you because you're a fan of him. If you put Andrew Luck on the Browns right now, impact, immediate or long-term?
I mean, I would like to think immediate, just because. I mean, if you look at this past Sunday, after they benched Kaiser and put in Kevin Hogan, playing with the same receivers had a lot more success on offense. I mean, the passes were a lot more crisp. Not a lot of seeing receivers kind of bending around on the inaccurate throws. So I would imagine that there would definitely be a marked improvement on the Browns. That said, again, you still need to have people to throw to, and I don't know if I would necessarily say that the Browns receivers are the worst in the league, especially after the unfortunate incidents of the Giants this past weekend, but they're down near the bottom. So,
okay. So you said that you thought Eli was leading the pack, but who do you actually think would benefit the most from a change of scenery between those 4?
Right now, Eli.
Yeah, he can't get out of New York fast enough. But do you think that we're done with guys like Bortles and Tannehill? Now, Tannehill is out for a while, and of course things aren't going the way that I think Gase probably thought they would go with Cutler in Miami. So clearly Tannehill's job not in jeopardy. Even still, Cutler, of course, had to be called out of retirement, so that's probably not at the forefront of his mind, but close enough to it, right behind the pack of smokes as far as his options for once the season is over. And then Bortles, as a Jacksonville Jaguar, we've seen them go through a lot of different quarterbacks. I mean, Blaine Gabbert was thought to be the promised one for Jacksonville. Do you think there's hope for either of those two on any other team, or is it just false advertising pretty much at this point?
I mean, Tannehill, I would like to see him have, another year or two with Gase to see what the two of them can do together. I'm not going to give up on Tannehill just yet, especially with the weapons that he has down there now. I mean, Jarvis Landry and Devontae Parker look like the real deal. So I would love to see a full season of, if nothing else, the three of them working under Adam Gase's offense before I suggest it's time for Tannehill to move on. Bortles, I would be more inclined to think so. But again, I mean, the Jags are playing good ball right now. And I mean, granted, offensively, I mean, I think they're riding Leonard Fournette more than they are Bortles. But, as I was saying earlier, I mean, having a good running game and having those weapons on offense is going to open up your passing game. So that'll be interesting to see what the rest of the season has as far as if that helps Bortles improve at all.
Okay, so the last question I'll ask you before we get to the juicy, the meat part of this whole conversation with you and I is that there's been some discussion about teams that are going to be in the market for a quarterback coming up, if not next season, the next couple. But I really do think that 2018 is going to be that year. And what I mean by that is we have the left and the right are boycotting the NFL for different reasons. One's boycotting because Colin Kaepernick doesn't have a job, and the other side is boycotting because players are taking a knee, and now we have people boycotting ESPN. It's like spin the wheel, and that's what's being boycotted today, or at least this week in the world of, what are you boycotting? That we have ratings are reportedly down. I'm inclined to believe that because if both sides are refusing to watch, then who's left other than the people that are sort of impartial to what's taking what's happening on the field before kickoff, like a guy like you or me, but you have a look to the future. There's already been some sloppy football played, some really key injuries, some losses, some superstars this season. And you look ahead to next year, you see guys, Palmer doesn't have that much left in the tank. Big Ben obviously is a huge question mark right now. Drew Brees has been in the talks for when will he retire for a while now. How much does Brady really have left? And then, of course, guys like Phillip Rivers, Eli, he is at that age where it's either, you get a second chance with another team like a Favre or a Montana, or you pack it up and your career's done. Kurt Warner went on to a different team after he played backup for the Giants, and that was the Cardinals. He took him to a Super Bowl. But if we see, I'd say probably like 5 or 6 teams need a quarterback of all things next year. I've heard that this class is not exactly the deepest at quarterback for draft prospects. Do you think that we could see the worst season that we've seen for the NFL with everything else going on right now?
I you know what? I doubt it. I mean, the NFL is going to be the NFL no matter what. I think more to the point, I don't know who these people are who are saying they're not watching the NFL anymore, but I highly doubt they're people who regularly watch it in the first place. I think the NFL is going to have its viewers no matter what happens, no matter what stupid controversies they allow themselves to get stuck in the middle of or end up causing themselves. But as far as play goes, I don't know. I think people are going to watch it no matter what. Yeah, the quality of play may go down a little bit, especially if you have you lose a lot of your great quarterbacks. But no, I don't think it's going to suffer too drastically.
Well, I guess we talked about how, what was it, week 3 or week 4 was a big week to watch because that was the week after all these teams had either stayed in the locker room or taken a knee or did whatever they were going to do, and now we're on anthem watch week to week. But now Jerry Jones says that if you kneel, you will sit. And there's been, I guess, a statement sent out to all the teams from Roger Goodell. Haven't had a chance to read that yet, but it sounds like they're being a bit more on the strict side as far as a player's conduct during such a moment before the game. And, of course, Roger Goodell isn't exactly the player or fan favorite when it comes to commissioners of major sports. So I was thinking, this next week could be one that you might see one of those moments where it's like, oh, my God, it happened, where a guy like Dak Prescott gets benched or somebody says enough is enough. And I didn't know if you had felt that way or seen something, because you live on the left side of the state of Washington, which happens to be a very left side of the state. I lived on the right side, which happens to be a very right side of the state. So I don't know what you're hearing in Seattle, because obviously they have the support of their fans, but there have been a lot of stuff going on with the Seahawks in regards to what's going on with the protests and everything.
Most of the people that I talk to about sports just think they're tired of hearing about it. They just, they tuned into sports for to have an escape or just for some mindless entertainment, and that's not to indicate whether I think either side is right or wrong in this. I'm not touching that powder keg with the 10-foot pole, but I mean, I think people just really want sports to be sports again and have all the other crap just go aside and not be such at the forefront of things.
Fair enough. So the big question now for you and me is, whose team is going to win first? Now, the Giants, of course, they still have yet to win a game, but sometimes with a team like the Giants, it's only a matter of time where there's some legit concern that, of course, the Browns and now the 49ers could both be in danger of going, 0-16. So for my Niners, the next 5 games on the schedule, and then there's a bye week, are at Washington, home against Dallas, at Philadelphia, and then home against Arizona, and who knows at that point, the currently winless New York Giants. And then for your Browns, though, we have a schedule that looks probably, I don't know if I'm going to say tougher because we don't know what's going on with the rest of your division right now, but they're at the Texans, home twice for the Titans and the Vikings, and then a bye week, and after that, the Lions and the Jaguars. And when you and I, or actually when Zach Brunner and I did our predictions for the AFC North, I said they were going to go 2-14, and those 2 wins were the Jets and Jags. Obviously, didn't happen with the Jets, but it was close. So where do you see the win happening for the Browns?
Yeah. I don't know. At one point, I would have said Houston would have been a viable win, and maybe now with their defense being and what all sorts of chaos, maybe it still will be. But I know the Browns defense is going to have to play their butts off to keep Deshaun Watson under wraps, and then they're going to have that extra added story of Watson playing, knowing that we passed on him, whereas the R. Deshaun is probably not going to even be playing this week. So, yeah, I don't know. If they don't win this week, and again, obviously this is all dependent upon what happens to the other teams between now and then. But I'm not seeing anything before maybe the Jags.
Yeah, I was going to say the Jags are probably the biggest surprise team right now as far as their defense is considered anyway. You want the ball out of Bortles' hands as much as possible, and it seems to work out pretty well for them. But if Mariota isn't back to the starting lineup, and I haven't seen a status update on him as of yet, you guys get them in 2 weeks, and we know that Matt Castle is Matt Castle, so there could be some hope there. The Titans very much, like the Raiders, rely on the play of their quarterback. So there's hope. That week is a big question mark. You do have the Jags. The Chargers, of course, were your guys' 1 win last year. That's got to look good on the schedule, considering that they're having struggles of their own again this season. And then the Bears, second to the last week. I fear that Trubisky may only get better, though, now that he has the reins in Chicago, and they're going to start working for and around him because they're playing for, well, pretty much John Fox's job. So,
yeah.
As far as...
I don't have my schedule in front of me. Is that game in Cleveland or Chicago?
That game is in Chicago.
Okay.
All the games, with the exception of you saying the Jaguars and me saying possibly the Titans, depending on who's QB, are on the road, unfortunately, for you guys. So if it was easy, anybody could do it. But
exactly.
Let's go ahead and check on my Niners. So I'm going to say that a big possibility for you, depending on who the quarterback is, of course, is going to be the Titans for you guys. So maybe you guys get your first win of the season as early as 2 weeks from now. I don't know. We'll see. How bad are they without Mariota? But for me and my 49ers, obviously the Redskins playing against our future quarterback, Kirk Cousins, is going to be a great time for me. Part of me wants to see him just tear us apart so that I can be like, that's our quarterback, man, right there, laying it on us. But then, the Cowboys at home, then on the road again to just as far as the previous week. Philadelphia, Red Hot Eagles, Cardinals at home. So that one, and then, of course, the Giants. So back-to-back home games. I mean, you got to look at these two and think if the Cardinals are still doing Arizona Cardinals things and Peterson hasn't been really any kind of a difference maker, these two games have really got to stand out to you as a 49ers fan. So if Mariota plays, then I don't think that the one against the Titans will happen. Even with Castle, I don't know, because the team is supposed to be good otherwise. But for the 49ers, I'm circling the Cardinals and Giants in that 2 home game stretch before the bye week, and then a 3rd home game against the Seahawks. I'm hoping for multiple wins at that point, but that might be a tall order because it never goes according to plan. So I hate to say it. I think that you guys are actually going to get the win before us, but I'm going to say that either the Cardinals or the Giants, one of those two games, is going to be the first win for the 49ers. So we will see how this plays out.
I think, Richard, that is a reverse jinx. I think I don't appreciate it. I would say. Sorry, I had a train of thought and I lost it. I think you're right with those. I think Cards and or the one afterwards were definitely the right ones.
All right, well, you and I will keep tabs. Of course, we'll watch the Twitter sphere when Deshaun Watson gets to play against the Browns, one of the quarterbacks that they passed on this year, and it'll be entertaining. I'll have my popcorn ready. But hey, I want to thank you for making me laugh, making the time a little bit better here. Always fun to have you on here. It's great to converse with you, things of football and nonsense. So I'll let you get back to it, and you have a great rest of your night, Mr. Rob.
Thanks, buddy. Anytime. I'm here for you, my friend.
All right, sounds good, man. You take care.
You too.
And one more time, that was Rob of Leveland Rowns, what was going to be a parody account that he decided, we'll just leave it. Great to talk football with him. And as promised, you guys, it's going to go a minute or two over. But because of the tragic news from earlier today, I went and found the episode and the segment from the last time that the late Carl Sims was on. So I'm going to end this episode out of the norm. You're not going to get the same, sign off. Of course, tune in tomorrow night. Got great guests this week: James Coe, Mark Sessler, both from NFL Network, tomorrow and Thursday. And we'll bounce back. We'll get back to the regular swing of football and nonsense. But I wanted to at least pay tribute to him as best I could. I thank you all for listening. Again, sorry for getting a little emotional, but sometimes real life hits you real hard, and that's what today it is. So, Carl Sims, man, you're in a better place, and you're teaching them up there the Sims Shuffle. So, buddy, this one's for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am back, and joining me, the master of the Sims Shuffle. Give it up for Nebraska's own right now, Carl Sims. Welcome back, Sims.
How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. How is it that you have cell phone service but Brown doesn't?
I don't know, man. I guess I got a better service than him.
Yeah, you need to tell him to stop, with Cricket or Virgin Mobile or Boost or whatever it was that was popular 10 years ago and get a big boy carrier. But
I think he probably got Cricket.
He probably does. Well, man, I've missed you at the Empire Games, but you are on to what looks like greener pastures. You've got some friendly faces there. I mentioned Bert and then his brother Rob Brown. They're playing on the same team for the first time, and you guys are fighting with Spokane for that last playoff spot. What's the mood been like between the three of you guys and the rest of the Nebraska locker room?
Well, I know those guys for a few years, so we all gelled together pretty good, and we got a pretty good friendship, so it's a pretty good locker room we got out there. So, it's a good camaraderie, good team camaraderie we have.
Now, Arizona, of course, has locked in the only playoff spot so far, so the road to the United Bowl, as far as the Intense Conference side, will go through Arizona. You guys have played them before, and so it's pretty much win and you're in as far as these last two games go. What's been the message in the locker room when it comes to prepping for these final 2 weeks of IFL football for you guys?
Well, it's just one game at a time, so we're just looking forward to Sioux Falls right now, and just going to go in there and execute our game plan, and hopefully we come out with a win.
Now, did you guys think at all during the season that it was going to come down to you and Spokane at this point in the season?
Well, we know Spokane was a pretty good team, and so was Arizona, so we knew it was going to come down to pretty much us three in the conference.
Yeah, and Arizona, of course, they got it done on the road twice in Spokane after Spokane beat them once in Arizona. So they're locked up. They're ready to go. You guys, if you win out, you're in. If you lose, Spokane would need to lose because you guys hold the tiebreaker. So in situations like this where you guys have a tiebreaker but the same record, is there any extra weight on your shoulders when it comes to practice, preparation, anything like that week to week?
Well, of course, it's a bigger deal, because we can't lose. So we're just going there and trying to focus on Sioux Falls, like I said, in our game plan and try to come out with that W.
How's Nebraska life been treating you?
Well, it's not a big city out here, but, they take care of us out here. So just strictly football, and, I like that.
That's all you need, right? Just straight up football.
Right.
Is Grand Island at all an island? Any kind of island?
Not that I know of. It looked like the farm island to me.
I was going to say, I wonder if it rains and it floods, if there's like an island that stands alone out there, and that's where they got the name. Because you can't be more in the Midwest than Nebraska. So the name struck me as a little odd and out of place when I saw where you guys were located over there.
Yeah, I'm going to do some research on that Grand Island. Yeah.
Oh, you're curious now. Well, man, you're one of the, veterans of the league, to say the least. You've been an incredible player. Your tenure in the IFL. Do you know yet? Have you thought about it? Like how many years you're going to continue to give this, or how your body feels at the end of another season so far?
Yeah, I just pretty much take it as far as like how the season goes and how my body feels. So I'm just gonna wait after the season to see how it goes.
Is there a team that you haven't played for yet in the IFL that you'd want to play for before you were said and done?
It's a few teams I haven't played for. I believe was that Barnstormers, Rattlers, of course, was their new Salt Lake. A couple more teams I can't say offhand, but we'll see where the Lord puts me.
You just sort of enjoy the ride, don't you?
Yeah, that's all I do.
Well, I haven't had a chance to meet your coach. He's been very difficult to get a hold of. What can you tell me about him? What kind of guys he like? What kind of coaches he like there in Nebraska?
Well, I can say he prepares pretty well. I like his offensive schemes, and he puts us in great position to make plays. And as far as the person, he's a stand-up guy, and he expects a lot from his players. So, I believe I think he's a really good coach. I mean, especially for his first year.
For a while there, you guys were sort of playing musical chairs at quarterback. It seemed like a decent system, but then one of them moved on to a different team. Same with Dello Davis. What has been the adversity like for you guys in overcoming that? Is it sort of you got to take it week to week, or do you just grind it out and make sure that you guys have the best on your roster at that time?
Yeah, you never know. Week to week, guys can get injured. Some guys can just have other issues, so you just got to come in ready to work and next man up.
Do you feel like you're one of the leaders on the team as far as are the younger guys, do they come to you for advice and coaching and making sure that you're getting the best out of them?
Yeah, since I'm a veteran, some these younger guys, they sit back and ask me questions, or they just sit back and, try to watch some of the things I do out there. So I consider myself a leader as well.
Now, when it comes to brothers being on the same team, specifically twins, as a guy who's on the outside looking in at that, what's it been like to see the Browns play together, even though they're on opposite sides of the ball? Like, do they bring out the best in each other, or do they constantly bicker?
Yeah, they expect a lot of each other. Once one of them's doing something wrong or not, picking it up or doing too well. They're quick to, step up and tell them, to pick it up or, you're not doing too well. So, them guys are pretty much great competitors as well with each other. They want to see each other do great all the time.
Well, you guys have a tough opponent in Sioux Falls coming up this weekend. Of course, earlier in the season, this game came down to the final, I think, minute, not even minutes, but final minute of that game, and it was a costly turnover, and Sioux Falls got the W. So you guys are going to play them again. Is this what you would call a revenge game, or is it pretty much it's another win that you need to keep your postseason hopes alive?
Well, I believe it's probably both. You know, you never like to go back to a team and, you know, and lose again. You always want to get that revenge, that comeback win. So we're going to come in with the revenge and also the mindset of we win here, we have a better chance of making it to the playoffs.
Yeah, because tomorrow night, before you guys even get a chance to play, Spokane will take on Iowa. And, of course, that's the game of the week. A lot of eyes will be watching that one. That could the outcome could be huge for you guys, or it could put more pressure on you. So are you guys – is that something that players will watch and see how it goes, or do you guys just sort of get into pregame mode and then you'll check everything after you guys have played?
Well, me personally, I'll be watching the game. I can't speak for everyone else. So we have a day off tomorrow, so I'll be watching the game for sure.
Are you rooting for anybody? Because you sort of have mixed interests in this game.
So, no, for sure we want Spokane to lose. Give us some help, you know.
Well, I don't think that there's a tougher final stretch of the schedule than what you guys have got at Sioux Falls, and then home to host the Nighthawks, who, again, both of these teams on that side of the IFL, they're fighting for their postseason lives. So I think we're going to see probably some of the most exciting IFL football that we've seen all season these last 2 weeks. So, man, it's been great to talk to you. I miss you over here in Spokane. I hope you come back soon. But best of luck, of course, this weekend. And the rest of the season, I do hope that you guys, you know, give it the best shot that you can to make that postseason berth.
Thanks a lot for having me, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Tell the Browns I said hello, and that Bert needs to get a better carrier so I can actually talk to him for once.
I'm telling. Good luck with your show, man. Thanks.
All right. I appreciate it, Sims. You take care.